Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're all having a fantastic Monday and that you've had a great weekend. We are going to kickstart the presentation now, so feel free to keep joining in for those of you who have just joined us. For those of you that I haven't met, I'm Lisa Woolfe, the Director of Tourism Events here at Townsville Enterprise. Before we kickstart, I thought we'd go through a couple of housekeeping items. So firstly, we are recording today's webinar, so we will be able to share a link with you post the event today for any of your colleagues, or if you wanted to just relive the moment. We are also encouraging comments and questions. I do want your feedback on today, and I would encourage you to ask any questions using the Q&A button at the bottom panel of your screen. We will try and answer as many questions as possible throughout the presentation, but for those that we can't answer during the presentation, I'm more than happy to chat with anyone offline as well. If you do have any technical issues during today's webinar, please also feel free to use that Q&A button and the team will be able to assist you wherever possible. So I know that we've had a tough few weeks for the tourism, hospitality and events industry, and I have no doubt that there is some challenging days and weeks ahead as well. But we did want to, I suppose, look to the positive and look forward a little bit today and discuss what the recovery might look like for our industry here in Townsville, North Queensland. So I will run you through a bit of a presentation. We'll talk about what our framework for recovery looks like, what we're looking at in regards to implementation, and also give you a bit of a sneak peek into some of the activity that we have been doing to keep the destination top of mind as well. So to start with, the impacts of COVID-19 to our tourism, events and hospitality industry have been significant. We know that the industry normally would contribute to about 7,000 jobs in the Townsville, North Queensland region and to about $1.2 billion across our economy as well. Effectively, COVID-19 shut down our industry. We were definitely the first, and we are likely to be the hardest hit as a result of COVID-19. Within hours of those restrictions being put in place, I think it was March the 13th that we really saw the restrictions come down hard. We saw significant job losses, and from the data that we've collected from all of you over the last few weeks, we understand that as of today, almost 50% of the businesses in the tourism and hospitality sector are completely shut down, with those that are managing to continue to operating at a significantly reduced capacity. You know, I've been speaking to a number of you over the last couple of weeks, and there's some significant challenges ahead of you in regards to cash flow, COVID safe plans, but I suppose wanting to reassure you that we are here to try and support you as much as possible as well. And there is no doubt that there will be some fundamental changes in how the tourism industry actually operates post-COVID. So I know that you're all looking at your businesses at the moment and looking at what changes may need to be put in place to become COVID safe. There's a lot of questions out there, and we're doing our absolute best to try and answer them all for you, whether that be questions about the restrictions lifting or about how you can make your business COVID safe. So we will continue to facilitate those questions and try and get those answers as quickly as possible for you as well. But I do encourage you that if you aren't receiving our emails, our weekly updates, jump onto the Townsville Enterprise website, sign up for our newsletter, and if you do have any questions about being COVID safe or about the financial support that is out there from government, please feel free to reach out to us so that we can try and continue to filter that information through to industry as quickly as possible. We've obviously seen some great announcements lately around a roadmap to recovery from the Queensland government, which gives us some dates with regards to how opening is likely to happen over the coming months. And I think that gives us, I suppose, a light at the end of the tunnel, but also has helped us to cement some of the strategy behind this framework as well, to give some certainty around timings as to when we might be able to do things. But you will notice as we walk through this framework with you that it is very much an adaptable framework that we can lean into as things change, because things are changing almost on an hourly basis in this COVID world. So we've developed a strategy that is thoughtful to both the consumer mindset, where you are at as industry as well, but also what needs to be done to make sure that we can restart the industry as soon as possible. And whilst we've seen the impacts of COVID certainly impact your businesses and the industry as a whole, there are some big challenges ahead of us, and there have been some big changes in how you operate, but there also have been some pretty significant changes in the consumer as well. So I wanted to sort of put you into the mindset of the consumer first and foremost. And I suppose the consumer at the moment has a lot going through their minds. The last 10 or so weeks have been the toughest for a lot of people, but it's not all bad news. Humans, we're pretty naturally adaptable, and we are social beings. So when we've been told to social distance, we've completely pivoted our lives to be online. So I don't know about you, but I'm certainly doing online Pilates classes, online cooking classes. We're prioritizing things like fitness and spending time with our kids. We've started working from home, and we've found new ways to connect. So there's been a change in how people are living at the moment. But this loss of freedom and I suppose increased isolation, particularly for those who live at home, has meant that people are turning to technology to escape. And we've seen that in our social media lately. We've seen some big increases in engagement and reach. People are just wanting a good news story. They want to dream about holidays, and quite frankly, they just want to break from COVID news as well. So that has been an opportunity for us in the here and now. There is some fear still in society, and at the moment, I'm sure you've seen with your conversations with friends and family, there is a fear for health, there is a fear for the economy, but there's even a fear, and I know speaking to a lot of you, there's a fear of unknowingly breaking rules as well. So there's some uncertainty out there in regards to that as well. There is a bit of a level of frustration, particularly here in North Queensland, where we haven't seen a new case in Townsville for I think it's 5 weeks at the moment. People are frustrated. They want to get back to work. They do want to get back out and travel. There's a bit of a pent-up demand there. So I think there's frustration that we haven't been granted more freedom, but I think with the line of sight that we now have, that's sort of starting to lift, and we're sort of starting to see a way out, which is positive as well. And there is also, interestingly enough, a large number of Australians, 52% according to some of the research by TEQ, that don't want things to just go back to normal. They see this massive pandemic as a life opportunity to really sit back and think about what's really important to them and what they really want to prioritise in life. So hopefully travel is at the top of that list as well. So what does this all mean for travel? And the good news is there's actually a fair bit of optimism and some great opportunities for the tourism industry. We just need to make sure that we can jump onto these opportunities and leverage them as well. So what we do know from some of the research, from what some of the research is suggesting through Tourism Events Queensland and Tourism Australia, is that 2/3 of Australians are thinking and or planning a future holiday and short break. Only 1/5 of them are actually planning at the moment, so we are still very much in that dreaming phase of travel, and that's really important to know when we talk about what sort of messaging we're putting out to market. When we look at our metropolitan cities, Melbourne and Sydney are definitely leading the pack in terms of dreaming, but Brisbane is actually the most likely to already be planning, which is a positive for us because Brisbane's will be the quickest market that we'll be able to get to in regards to metro markets, in regards to the restrictions lifting. Those that are most likely to travel are unsurprisingly those that have high income households, they're full-time employed, or they're frequent travellers, and they're retired as well. There's a lot of retired people who obviously had overseas trips planned or holidays planned that are ready to get back out there and explore as well. There has been a strong pent-up demand to see friends and family after these restrictions ease. So I think the visiting friends and relatives market is going to be very key for us. And positively, we have always had a very strong visiting friends and relatives market here in Townsville. Obviously, being a defence base and a university base as well, we do have quite a transient community and population. So we need to leverage that opportunity to try and bring them back to visit Townsville, North Queensland post-restrictions lifting. What we do know is there's about a $60 billion market of Australians who would normally travel overseas. So they can't go abroad anymore. No one can travel overseas. Those international borders are going to be closed for quite some time. So how do we encourage people to, I suppose, a key word for 2020, but how do we encourage them to pivot to have their holidays in Australia, but more importantly in Townsville, North Queensland as well? We are fortunate in Townsville that we aren't hugely dependent on tourism as a sole industry. So we do have a very diversified economy here in Townsville, North Queensland, and 30% of Townsville residents' jobs are actually stable government jobs who really haven't had any or much impact in regards to disposable income as a result of COVID. So we do have a good underlying base there of locals that can support our tourism economy as we do start to reopen. And the other thing to consider in regards to consumer sentiment with regards to planning your business as well, is that there is high expectations and perhaps higher than ever before around environmental and also health protections particularly, and that's why that COVID safe is going to be absolutely critical for your business to be able to reopen as well. We are anticipating some pretty big changes with how people travel as well. So the research is also suggesting that about 50% of Australians are less likely to take a cruise. 26% of Australians are less likely to take a plane, but self-drive is certainly the biggest opportunity for us and for all destinations in a post-COVID world. Fortunately, consumers are looking for large natural attractions, outdoor activities. They want to indulge in local produce. Basically, the offering that we have in regards to experiences, wide open spaces, lots of beautiful nature, the reef islands, outback, that is what people are looking for, and that is what we're able to offer. So they had certainly been inspired by natural beauty. At the moment, large crowds and events are not appealing to the audiences. I think it's too early in the COVID sort of world at the moment, but I think we could see a shift in this sentiment as well as things progress and as things begin to reopen as well. So I've just been asked a question which I might just answer before I skip through to the next one. Is there a template for the COVID management plan we have to have in place before guests arrive? The Queensland Tourism Industry Council is working through a series of guidelines and templates for tourism industry to be able to use to address exactly that. So we haven't had access to those yet. They are working with the Mater Hospital to be able to deliver them. So we hope to have them within, I'm guessing, the next fortnight, but that will certainly help you to put your COVID safe management plan in place. So if you haven't already, sign up to our newsletter, and as soon as we have access to those, we will share them out to industry as well. So what does recovery actually look like? And there's a lot of conversation happening around this, but I think what we've seen in the past from events like 9/11 and SARS in particular as well, is that these events saw a very quick and immediate drop in visitation, but they also saw a corresponding very quick and immediate recovery as well. When you look at the global financial crisis, what we saw with tourism and visitation then was a more steady and slow decline, and then a steady and slow increase back to normality with regards to visitation for that particular event. But COVID-19 is a bit of a different beast. It is certainly a dual crisis of health and economics. So the recovery predictions around visitation are a little bit different, and probably what I would call a hybrid between what we saw for 9/11 and SARS and then the global financial crisis. And what the prediction is sort of looking like at the moment is that as these local restrictions, like we saw on the weekend, and again we'll see in June, as they increase and the local markets get out and explore their own backyards, we will see a slight sort of increase in visitation. As the broader markets begin to reopen, we'll see more sharp increase in visitation. And then as things sort of start to go back to normal, we will see a slow but steady rise back to some sort of normality. What they're saying at the moment is that the prediction around getting visitation back to normality, or what we were pre-COVID, is probably around 3 years. Now, in saying that, it's likely that Townsville may act a little bit differently. We don't have a strong dependence on international markets like some of our other destinations. We also have a very strong drive market and a regional visitation, so that may enable us to come back to market and come back to normal a little bit earlier. I also mentioned that diversified economy also as well, so earlier before as well. So that may actually enable us to establish connectivity quicker and get back to a form of normality a little bit quicker. But whilst there's a lot of opportunities, there is also a very significant level of competition that we're going to be going back into market with. So we're going to be opening back up in what will be the most competitive market that we've ever seen. Every single Australian destination is going to be targeting the domestic traveller. And even as New Zealand opens, they will be targeting the domestic traveller as well. So we do need to consider our marketing strategy thoughtfully and strategically. We might not be able to be everything to everyone, but we can certainly offer a very compelling product that brings the visitation through to us, but also build on our strengths as that regional domestic destination to be able to grow our visitation as well. So that brings us to, I suppose, the framework in regards to how we are actually planning for recovery. And we've seen some of the roadmap from Queensland Government come out 2 weeks ago, I think it was, which basically has given us a bit of a direction and a line of sight as to how restrictions are going to be lifting. And obviously we saw on the weekend the first lot of local restrictions being lifted. And then in June, we see some of the regional travel restrictions get lifted, and we're anticipating from there on it'll be state restrictions, national restrictions, Trans-Tasman with our New Zealand friends, and finally the last to reopen is likely to be the international restrictions. What we can do with that is we can we've developed a framework which is basically very adaptable to the times, and we can mould this sort of framework as things change. But it comes down to 3 key phases. The first phase is the remain phase, which is really about defending and maintaining the industry. So supporting you to survive through COVID and to get out the other side, advocating on your behalf, but also getting your businesses in a place that you'll be able to reopen when a reopening is possible. So we've been in the remain phase for the last 8 to 9 weeks. The next phase, as particularly the tourism restrictions start to lift, we're calling the Reemerge phase. And this is all about starting to build demand for our destination again. So trying to drive visitors back into our destination, getting our operators reopened, and the priority really is around getting back to some sort of visitation that we were at before. As we start to come into the new world of normal post-COVID and things start to lift even further, and we have the opportunity to look to international markets, that's when we can start to reimagine. And this is really about looking to new markets, expanding the work that's been working really well. And we're not really sure what the Reimagine phase looks like because things are changing so frequently. Our industry is changing so frequently that at the moment we're really focusing our attention on that, getting through this period, the remain phase, and then the Reemerge phase as well. What we do know and what we've been able to now put some timeframes to is with the roadmap to restrictions lifting, we envision that we're probably going to be somewhere between that remain and re-emerge phase until about July. Our research and study through our survey that we've put out is really suggesting that most of your businesses are looking to open at a very significant reduced capacity around June, but really July is, I suppose, that key period to be able to open properly, with the school holidays sort of a key period in between there as well. So we're working through the data, and it's really important that we understand from you exactly when you're looking to reopen in line with these restrictions so that we can align our marketing efforts and our campaign activity to what's reflective of the industry as well. Now, in saying this framework that's been put out by the Queensland Government is not necessarily linear. If we do see a second wave of COVID cases, we may have to go back for a period, or we might be able to progress further forward if we continue on the track that we're on at the moment. So we understand that, which is why we've developed the 3 phases to really understand how we operate as an organisation and as a regional tourism economy in each of these phases as well. What we don't know yet is what happens from stage 4 onwards. And as that detail becomes available, we'll be able to further build our framework around that as well. So there's 4 key strategic pillars that we're going to be looking at under each of those phases. The first one is industry engagement and development. So this is about supporting you as tourism businesses to ride out COVID, how you adapt your business to be able to operate on the other side, but also advancing our destination to be better than it was before. And that's definitely a long-term goal, but this is all about looking at things like your experience design, your COVID safe plans, advocated on your behalf for the financial support that you need to get through this period. From a consumer demand point of view, this is our destination marketing piece, and I'm going to take you through a concept that we've got happening at the moment in regards to what we might look to implement in regards to destination marketing. But this is all about building our demand for the destination and really defining our region very strongly on the other side of COVID when travel is allowed again. Our events calendar, obviously there's events are kind of a little bit we're uncertain about at the moment, but we're certainly looking at how we can leverage opportunities from events to rebuild community pride and also visitation when that time is right. And a key piece, as always, is connectivity and accessibility. So aviation connections are critical, but also ensuring that we can get affordable travel options and that we look to rebuild that cruise industry when the time is right as well. So putting those under the phases that I mentioned earlier, if we talk about the Remain phase, which a reminder is the strategy to defend and maintain, it's about keeping our destination top of mind, building a database of future travellers, and also it's all about industry advocacy and support. So under that industry engagement and development pillar, this is where we're implementing things like our business assistance hub on our website, professional development and industry upskilling. So a lot of you have been tuning into our different webinars that we've been having. We've got one on Facebook on Wednesday if you want to join in on that one. It's also about experience design, mentoring, and also getting you prepared for recovery. And advocacy, as I mentioned a few times as well, around not just support for your businesses, but also for new products and experiences. In the consumer demand phase, this is really focused on the dreaming phase of travel. This is about keeping our destination top of mind. It's the campaigns that we've been running, like our Buy Now, Holiday Later and our virtual staycations. But also in the here and now, we're trying to source adequate funding as well for the marketing that needs to take place in the next phase also. And I'll show you a quick video very soon, which gives you a bit of an insight into the marketing we've been doing in the here and now. In the events calendar, unfortunately, there's not a lot we can do with events in the Remain phase. It's really about encouraging postponement rather than cancellation, but also working with all of our councils to understand what the regional events calendar might look like post-COVID-19, and also reviewing activities like our bid fund moving forward, because that was definitely an industry supported activity, which we understand may not be possible now due to COVID. With regards to connectivity and accessibility, you would have seen we've been doing a fair bit of advocacy around the aviation sector in particular, trying to encourage competition, redirecting certain funding buckets that maybe used to be used to attract new flights that we want to now see re-establishing our flights, and also really focusing on maintaining our key existing markets rather than looking to any new markets as well. And we know that in this Remain phase, there's some pretty significant challenges for you as industry. You're operating at reduced capacity with increased overheads in regards to making your businesses COVID safe. You have had no revenue stream for months, so relaunching with regards to marketing is going to be challenging, and that is challenging for us as well, because we often rely on cooperative activity with our industry, so we're looking to new ways that we might be able to source funding to relaunch in regards to marketing. There is still a lot of confusion about your expectations as businesses as how to reopen safely, and hopefully when we get those COVID safe guidelines from QTIC, that will provide some further guidance for you all. And changing obviously the experience to align with the new expectations of our consumer. That's another challenge that you'll be facing in the coming weeks as well. So you get a little bit of a break from my voice. I'm just going to play you a quick video which demonstrates the type of messaging and marketing that we've been putting out at the moment during this Remain phase to keep the destination top of mind and really stay in that dreaming phase of travel as well. So sit back for a minute and enjoy.
Though our beaches, oceans, rainforests and open horizons are quieter than usual, the sun continues to shine on Townsville, North Queensland. While we all navigate this new world together, our distinctive sense of North Queensland humour, our unbroken resilience and our unique community bond strengthens us. We're all doing our bit to support a community who proudly work to showcase the natural beauty of the place we call home. A place that welcomes many more into its embrace every year. And while we can't fully explore our magnificent home right now, we know you will never stop dreaming of experiencing the awe of the outback, the magic of the Great Barrier Reef, or the wonder of the rainforest with your family and loved ones, of leaving your legacy and creating lasting memories. Today we must be apart so that someday soon we can all be together, and when we do, the beauty of our region and the local characters who call it home will be waiting for you. Take the pledge to play in our paradise and keep Townsville, North Queensland shining.
It's a beautiful piece that the team put together a couple of weeks ago to launch our Buy Now Holiday Later campaign, which I'm really excited to say has actually secured $100,000 for industry. So we are sort of starting to to wind down those sorts of activities now, because we are starting to see those restrictions lift, and we are certainly starting to move towards this re-emerge phase as well. So again, the re-emerge is really focusing on building our destination demand, encouraging travel, re-enabling or enabling businesses to reopen rather, and rebuilding our destination as well in regards to aviation and our brand also. So under the 4 strategic pillars that I mentioned earlier, in the industry engagement and development phase, this is very much similar to, I suppose, what we had in the Remain phase, but the focus here shifts on not just advocacy and professional development and upskilling, but also how do we advocate for government to start supporting or reducing red tape to support businesses to adapt and to move forward? How do we fast track approvals for different products and experiences that might be ready to be commenced or almost completed? How do we further support businesses to become COVID safe? And finally as well, which is a really important piece that we need all of your assistance with, is how do we understand and take stock of your business's status and your readiness to reopen? We know that there's different businesses that won't be viable to reopen until stage 3 or even beyond. So keeping us up to date with, I suppose, what your business is doing and when you might be able to reopen, so that we can align that to our marketing activities, is really key. In regards to consumer demand, this is where we really turn up and turbocharge our marketing activity. We have been doing a lot of work behind the scenes in regards to digital technology. So how do we better leverage the digital platforms that we've got? We know that industry has been hurting for a number of weeks. So you're looking for conversion. You're not just looking for that dreaming phase once we start to reopen. So how do we support you with a conversion strategy for the markets that are open? And then an awareness strategy for those markets that are looking to reopen very soon. We're already talking in discussions with other regional tourism organisations for drive partnership campaigns, and also looking to start some conversations with our local media partners, trade and corporates as well, to see how we might be able to further extend our marketing dollars. Also working with proponents who may have new products, for example, the Museum of Underwater Art, and we've got some walking trails being worked on at the moment as well, but I know that some of you have also got concepts around adapting your business to offer new products, so helping you to take that to market. We're also looking at the reopening of the visitor information centres at this stage as well. In regards to the events calendar, this is really where we work with each of the individual council areas to implement the event strategy and also the marketing of those revised events calendars. Again, we don't have a clear line of sight of timeframes for this at the moment, but we definitely envision that events in the first instance are going to be very much more regionalised focused events. In regards to connectivity and accessibility, this is about rebuilding and establishing our relationships with our airlines, certainly doing that in partnership with Townsville Airport and Queensland Airport, who take the lead on that, but looking to reactivate our marketing partnerships with airlines that have been so successful in the past, and obviously ongoing advocacy as well around making sure that we have those dual airlines in the air also. And finally, taking stock and audit for cruise products and for cruise development as we understand what the cruise strategy might look like, and that's certainly much more of a longer term strategy at this stage. So what I thought I might take you through now is a concept that we've got at the moment for how we might go to market fairly quickly in around July as things start to reopen around that consumer demand and that destination marketing. So first of all, when we're talking about this campaign, we need to be quite clear about what the objectives are overall. And really, we don't think that we're going to be able to get back to 100% within the next 12 months. There is a lot of challenges behind us to getting visitation back, and with restrictions still not completely opened, it is going to be extremely challenging. But we do want to be ambitious with our marketing activity and with the work and industry engagement that we do. We would ideally like to see that visitation be back to about 75% rather of pre-COVID by July 2021. To do that, we are going to need to get some strong marketing messages out there, but we're also going to need some good marketing dollars to be able to compete in a very competitive market as well. Obviously, we want to increase our social media reach and exposure, because that's going to be a key way that people are continuing to plan travel, and a highly influential way for people planning travel. We want to achieve a positive sentiment, not just from visitors, but also from locals. I think this is an opportunity for us. In the past, we've seen different data come out, and you may have seen it in your own businesses as well, where the local sentiment towards our region is much lower than what our visitors' sentiment is. So this is our opportunity during this lockdown and local restrictions lifting to get our locals back out there, exploring their own backyard, and really becoming better advocates for our region. So that's a key sort of strategy that we want to take forward as well. And also, if we're looking towards a more regional sort of focus in the drive market, how do we increase the average length of stay as well? So with regards to the messaging around our campaign activity when we come out of this, I think it's really key that we keep the consumer mindset at the top of our consideration when we're going to market. And we know that things are changing so rapidly. The consumer mindset is changing so rapidly. So we do need a strategy that is going to be in a marketing campaign that is going to be flexible and adaptable based on that. So a key part of our delivery, I suppose, or implementation of our marketing is going to be digital to allow us to do that. And obviously, that's the next point there, adapting over time as restrictions lift and as consumer sentiment shifts. We need to leverage from what works and what the locals embrace, because we are going to be, for the first few months, very much leaning on our locals to support our tourism industry. And what we do know is that the hashtag Townsville Shines, which was launched maybe 5 or so years ago, has always been really well received by the locals. As of last week, it had 323,000 posts to it. So the Townsville Shines is a really strong brand. It's strong for our locals, but it's strong beyond that as well. So how do we leverage and take that to the next step? How do we maximize digital technology and be right where the audience is, rather than trying to talk to everyone about everything? How do we really send the right message to the right customer at the right time? How are we going to cut through the clutter? And that's about that right message as well. And also, we need to be really cautious of aligning to Tourism Events Queensland and also Tourism Australia's strategy as well. They obviously have much bigger marketing buckets than what we do, and a much bigger reach. So we need to make sure that we're not just supporting their activity, but we're feeding them some fantastic content, which is supporting the activity and putting Townsville in the spotlight and North Queensland in the spotlight as well. So with regards to who are we actually going to be talking to? In the first instance, as I mentioned earlier, we are going to be leaning on our locals. So the immediate response and the low-hanging fruit is really that locals and regional market. So we're calling that the staycation market. We've also got the family drive market, which I think is a key one. For any of you parents out there listening that have been trying to homeschool, I'm pretty sure that you're pretty keen to get your kids back out learning from someone else other than mum and dad. So how do we really lean on the educational product that we have in our region to try and get kids back out and exploring as well? And also those essential workers, people who have been financially secure but have been working non-stop during this time and may just be ready for a bit of a break. As we sort of start to see restrictions lift a bit further, we can start being a bit more strategic with regards to our marketing strategy, and we're going to apply what's called passionography to our marketing. So basically, we're currently working with some data to really further define these markets, but we will look to select 5 to 6 key market segments based on interests. So for example, hikers, cyclists, fitness enthusiasts and walkers. So they all have common interests in outdoor fitness type activity. So rather than targeting them with lots of different messages, how do we target them with key messages around things like walking the Forts Walk on Magnetic Island, or taking the hike up Castle Hill, or walking out or mountain bike riding out at Palaranda? So what we can do with this strategy is we can really get to know these key sort of market segments and focus in on interest, but also increase and extend the marketing efforts as the geographic boundaries are released as well. And that allows us to be quite flexible with regards to how we're actually managing the message and also the marketing. And then as things further start to settle and we can start looking to those metro markets, we'll obviously start working towards a more always on strategy, a bit more of a mass market strategy, but also around our partnerships with our RTOs and also our airlines. And as events come back online as well, obviously looking at event packages to try and convert people to travel again for events as well. So that brings me to a campaign concept we have at the moment, which is called Find Your Shine. And the concept is really about people have been locked down for so long. They're so keen to get out and explore the region again. So how do they come out of isolation to reignite their passions, reconnect with loved ones, and do things in new ways around our region? The conversion piece of this is really strong. It's about driving bookings by delivering very tailored and customized itineraries, which are based on those interest segmentations that I mentioned earlier. And also there's a passion strategy that we can put behind this. So increasing awareness of our hero experiences, and that's how we've developed those passion segmentations, is looking at what our hero experiences are and who might be attracted to those. But also building a local base of ambassadors as well that can help to sell our experiences and talk to that VFR market as well. We need to leverage the pent-up demand for connection with people and activity, and a message like Find Your Shine does that. It's also about using those digital technologies to deliver the message, but also convert the customer. And we've all found ISO hobbies. I, for one, have started baking, which is extremely unlike me. So how do we convert some of these ISO hobbies into holiday ideas? So for example, is there cooking classes that I might be able to do locally in some of our local restaurants? Or, you know, for those that have discovered fitness or running or something during this period, what sort of activities can we now divert you to that are out and about exploring our region, but also contributing to our economy as well? So the Find Your Shine concept is really turning how we would normally market our destination on its head. So rather than sort of selling a mass marketing message to everyone about this is what our destination offers, this is what our destination offers for you, and really pulling on the heartstrings and the emotive messaging to our key audiences based on their interests and their passions. So it's quite a different concept to what we've had before, and we're still working through a lot of the data and detail around the actual implementation from a digital point of view. But we're quite passionate about this one, and we think that it's quite a different way to be taking the destination back out to market in what's going to be a very cluttered space. So what I'll do now is I'll show you a quick video which we launched on Friday, I think it was, which you'll see is the transition from the buy now, holiday later messaging into more of a get ready to explore your backyard, and then you can sort of envision where this might be then going from there. So sit back, enjoy, and another minute without my voice won't go astray, so enjoy. load that. So this, I'm not sure how you can read this on your screen depending on your screen size, but you can see here the 3 different phases of that strategy. So we had the buy now, holiday later, which was that first video that I played there. And that's really about getting people to start planning your ultimate isolation escape, buying gift cards to support our tourism operators, and taking your pledge to play in our paradise. In the regional campaign, which we've sort of, that was a kickstart to what we're looking to do. This is all about really honing in on the mindset of the consumer. We've become teachers, we've become home chefs and family entertainers. We've been apart so that we can be together again very soon. Our islands, our reef, our rainforests, etc., have been thriving. We live in paradise. It's time to explore beyond your backyard. Find your shine. Your next adventure awaits in Townsville, North Queensland. In Townsville, North Queensland. And then, as the restrictions start to lift further and we start to look towards that state to national campaign, our messaging adapts a little bit further and a little bit more refined in regards to those passion strategies. And we're talking about a lot has changed in the last few weeks. We've discovered newfound passions, and we've been hibernating, but our landscapes have been thriving. We've got new experiences, new stories to share. It's time to reconnect with the world beyond your armchair. It's time to find your shine. Welcome to Townsville, North Queensland. So you can see a slow, subtle progression in the messaging as restrictions lift, so that we can really stay attuned to the consumer, but also deliver results for the industry as well throughout this period. So the concept when we do relaunch fully, as restrictions are a bit more fully lifted, is to actually do a full redesign of our website and implement what we're calling a Shine Finder quiz. And basically this is a concept which there'll be a lot of media out there that would redirect people into our website, where they could take quite an interactive quiz to help us to understand, I suppose, what a dream holiday might look like for them. So you plug in a little bit of details, would be quite graphical and fun to do. And then at the end of it, what it would push out is a customized itinerary based on those interests that you've put in. And that would be a fully bookable itinerary within our region. So here's an example to the side here. Someone has plugged in and we've determined from whatever they've done on our quiz that they want a weekend away, that they've got a budget of between $500 to $700. They've got a family of 4 and they like hiking, wildlife and beaches. So that then plugs out a magnetic island trip with a snorkel and wildlife tour, some family-friendly overnight accommodation and a walking trail. And that would normally cost $650, but if they book it immediately, it's $530. Otherwise, they get the itinerary sent to them to be able to book it themselves as well. So that's that is really how we're going to take the concept and the visual and the marketing messaging to convert it into to business for operators as well. But it is going to require your support in regards to making sure that we've got all your details, we've got everything updated, and that we're able to implement you into those itineraries as well. So I'll talk to that very soon also. And as I said, this is all very much concept at the moment, and we're working through with our web developers, with people who can deliver us more data about those segmentations as well, to really make sure that we implement this strongly. But also don't want to go to market until we've had feedback from the industry as well, to make sure that we're hitting the mark in regards to what you want to see us delivering too. And in regards to implementation, this is all, a lot of this is going to come down to the budget that we're able to secure, but the concept of implementation is to work very closely with you as operators to not just open, but to sort of reinvigorate your experiences, maybe look at some new experiences that we can align to the post-COVID world and the expectations of consumers, and how we can feed them into our itinerary creation. We obviously need to onboard you as operators into our booking facility so that you can actually go from the dreaming phase to the conversions phase all in a few clicks for our consumers. Obviously, there's a complete website overhaul that needs to be done here. We need to implement a local influencer and ambassador strategy. We're looking towards TV and radio partnerships with our local media, social media search and programmatic advertising, which is basically where banner ads appear on websites that you're searching relevant to your interests. So very strong digital component to this strategy. We want to develop an industry toolkit to enable you to implement into your marketing as well. EDM, which is electronic newsletters, airline partnerships, As I mentioned before, we have started some conversations around drive partnerships with the RTOs, our neighbouring RTOs. We think there's a really strong PR strategy behind this as well, and we would look to, and we've already sort of started some very, very early conversations with the Townsville Bulletin and News Corp around how we might be able to do a bit of a journalist for mill program so that their journalists can find their shine. So we might be able to do some strategic trade partnerships as well. And obviously we have the Museum of Underwater Art launch, which would be launching alongside this as well. So something to keep in mind. So then the next steps here is really, the key one is securing resources to implement the recovery campaign. And I'm fully aware that you all have been hurting for a number of weeks and months potentially. So cooperative campaign activity is going to be extremely limited, if not impossible. So I am aware of that, and we're trying to be quite creative with how we might be able to source the funding to deliver this. Data analysis around cementing those passion strategies, as I mentioned earlier. I am very keen to have a chat with any of you around your thoughts on all of this. So I really want to get some great feedback from you all to be able to adapt and transition this strategy to work with your businesses. Partnership conversations I've mentioned a few times have already commenced. And the industry implementation period part. So this is going to be really important as well to make sure that you're visible to not only our consumer but to our industry stakeholders like Tourism Events Queensland and Tourism Australia, but also so that you can really leverage the opportunities that come out of this campaign. So please make sure that you have use this time that you might be quieter than normal, although some of you have told me you're busier than normal trying to get your business all ready for openings, but try and use this time to get your Australian Tourism Data Warehouse listing up to date and ready for relaunch. If you're not already listed on BookEasy and you want to be a part of any campaign activity that we do post this, we do have some workshops coming up, or webinars rather, coming up around leveraging BookEasy, getting listed, but the team is happy to go through that one-on-one with you as well. Look at your experience, and I'm happy to have a chat or a brainstorm with you if you want to maybe take a step back and look at your experience of how you might be able to adapt it to offer something new to the consumer. And really, it's hard for us to understand exactly what's happening in everyone's business. So please do keep us up to date with what's happening with your business status, your open status, your readiness status, and what sort of support you might need to take that next step as well. And then finally, with every good strategy, framework, marketing campaign, it's all about monitoring and adapting. And particularly at this time when things are changing ever so rapidly and frequently, it's really important that we continue to keep the consumer mindset, but also the industry's readiness at the top of mind, so that we are sensitive to both needs as well. So that's basically everything that I wanted to go through. I'm going to stay online for a couple of minutes. So if you do have any questions that you want answered, please pop them into the box, the Q&A box at the bottom. Otherwise, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon, and please feel free to pick up the phone anytime to have a chat with me if you have any thoughts. I'll stop sharing my screen so you can see me. Hopefully you can see me there. So I've just had a question come through that the state government said this morning that state borders could stay shut until September. Has this been factored into this campaign? Absolutely. Look, we don't have a clear line of sight exactly as to when state borders, national or international borders might reopen, which is why we wanted to take a very heavy digital focus onto with regards to the campaign, so that we can basically increase the messaging into certain geographic markets as the timing is right. But yes, it is difficult at the moment to have a clear line of sight as to exactly when some of those borders might be reopened. What we have done in regards to the campaign planning is we've basically developed a best, worst and middle case scenarios. So we've kind of got 3 different scenarios running in regards to those borders and how things might reopen. But we are certainly going to be leaning on the locals and the Queensland economy, or the Queensland visitor in the first instance, to get our economy back up and running. So if you're a business that has been very dependent on international visitation, then we can have a discussion with you to see how we can make you more domestic ready, I suppose. I've had a question about the local councils. Yes, we've been briefing the local councils all the way through on this framework and on the marketing strategies that we want to take to market. So we're continuing conversations with the councils around that as well. Thank you, Lisa, for your beautiful message. I'm glad that you enjoyed. Well, if there's no other immediate questions popping up, I'll stay online for a couple more minutes, but please feel free. I'm just going back to see if there's. I'm glad so many of you liked the videos. They are on our Visit Townsville Australia Facebook page, so please jump on there to share those with your own audiences as well. We definitely want to get the messages out there wide and clear. And I've had a question earlier as well around how do we encourage consumers to differentiate between a cruise and a Great Barrier Reef liveaboard dive trip. I think that's probably I think the images and the messaging around cruise ships being quite large vessels with lots of people on it, but especially with the smaller operators being able to have COVID safe plans and things in place. I think we obviously make the messaging more around a dive trip rather than a dive cruise, but that does raise a point for me, Dave, who looks like has asked that one. But basically, what was I going to say? I've just completely lost it. Encourage differentiate between a cruise and a Great Barrier Reef. So those guidelines will come out, which will enable you to basically align your business to those guidelines to be able to reopen and COVID safe. But the national, I think Tourism Queensland and Tourism Australia have also been working on a COVID safe logo, which is basically a self-assessment based on those guidelines, which will enable you to publish and promote yourself as a COVID safe business as well. So that will be a really key piece, and that will be aligned as well, I believe, to your ATDW listing. So if you haven't got ATDW or you haven't updated your ATDW in a while, make sure that is updated so that as soon as you get that accreditation as such, you'll be able to push that through those channels as well. I think that looks like all of the main questions, guys. So please do feel free to reach out anytime. I'm happy to brainstorm ideas or to hear any of your feedback. But thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. And I wish you all the very best of luck for the coming days and weeks ahead. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you on Wednesday as well with our Facebook workshop webinar as well. So thank you very much. Have a great afternoon.